Welcome to Audible Stories. The Lady of Sand. Once upon a time, on the shores there was a port known as Stavoren. Stavoren was one of the wealthiest coastal cities during the late Middle Ages. Ships from everywhere crowded the harbor, and the merchants grew rich. The people of Stavoren were so wealthy, in fact, that even the doors of their houses were decorated with gold leaf. Among these wealthy merchants there was one woman whose husband had died years before. She inherited his fortune, and she continued to trade. As the years passed, she became richer still, and everyone spoke of her fabulous wealth and of her beauty. One day a famous captain visited the Lady of Stavoren. He bowed before her and held a gift out to her. "Dearest lady, I want you to have this beautiful ruby ring." The stone was huge, and it sparkled as brightly as the sun. The Lady of Stavoren was impressed with its beauty. "Lovely," she said, and then she looked down at the ground. "Thank you so much, though I do wish." "You wish for what?" The captain interrupted her. He had so wanted to please the Lady of Stavoren, and he hoped to give her anything she wanted. "I wish someone would bring me the most precious thing in all the world," she said softly, and truly this is what she most desired. "But what is that?" the captain asked, perplexed. The lady smiled. "Ah, I do not know, but I shall know it when I see it," she said. The captain bowed to her and said, "I promise you, dear lady, when next I return from my travels, I shall bring you the most precious thing in the world." He set off on his journey and sailed far and wide. The captain visited many of distant cities, some strange, some magnificent. Always when he reached a new port, he searched in the markets and in the villages and in the city squares for something more precious than all the other gifts in the world. He found diamonds and rubies, emeralds and pearls, furs and carpets and tapestries, satins and silks, bracelets and baubles. He found every imaginable item of beauty made from glass and stone and marble, gold and silver. "What is the most precious thing in the world?" he asked every merchant he met, and everyone had an answer and offered to sell him something. But nothing seemed to the captain to be the most precious thing in the world. And then one day, in a country he had never before visited, he came upon an old, crumbling barn. When he peered inside, he felt inspired. Suddenly he knew exactly what the most precious gift in all the world was. This barn was filled with something far more precious than jewels or brocades. The captain quickly called to his men and instructed them to load the ship. Then they set sail for Stavoren. The Lady of Stavoren heard that the ship was heading into port, and her heart began to beat wildly at the thought of the most precious gift in the entire world. She imagined her home even lovelier than it was now, and she imagined everyone admiring her, envying her, wishing they, too, had such a gift. When word of the ship's landing reached her, the lady hurried down to the wharf. She waved as the captain and his men neared shore. "Tell me, Captain," she cried. "I can't wait any longer. What did you bring me?" When the captain landed, he hurried to the lady. "I have brought you the most precious thing in all the world," he said, and he offered his hand. "Come aboard and see for yourself." And so the lady stepped on board and followed the captain to the hold. "What's this?" she cried when she saw, stacked floor to ceiling, sacks full of seeds. "How could you insult me so?" "But my lady," the captain said, "this is wheat, and there is nothing so precious in all the world as the bread that feeds us." "How dare you?" she cried. "Throw it into the sea," she said to the captain's crew. "My lady, no," the captain cried. "If you insist my men to do this, only sorrow will come to our city. You must understand that the bread that feeds us is far more precious than anything else in the world," said the captain. The lady got furious and she pulled the ruby ring gifted by the captain from her finger and flung it into the water, where the strong current swiftly carried it to sea. "Sorrow will no sooner come to this city than my ruby ring will return to me," said the lady to the captain. And with that she commanded the men to toss the sacks of wheat into the sea. They had no choice. Their hearts bursting with sadness, the men heaved the wheat overboard. The next evening, the lady sat down at her table to enjoy a feast. When she sliced into the fish on the plate before her, she gasped, for there, inside the fish, lay her ruby ring. "This cannot be," she whispered. She quickly hid the ring from her guests and servants, for no one must know that the ruby ring had returned to her. Alas! That very night many ships were lost at sea in a terrible storm, and within weeks, the wheat at the bottom of the harbor began to grow. As it did, sand gathered between the stalks, and soon sand filled the harbor. Before long, large ships could no longer enter, for the sandbar grew and grew. To this day, the sandbar is called Ladies' Sand. What once was the liveliest and wealthiest port of Stavoren now grew smaller and poorer. The captain and everyone says, this was the fault of the greedy lady of Stavoren, or the lady of sand, who did not understand how precious is the bread that feeds us to live. So we must value the food we eat, and should never waste them. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening.